Let me tell you about the smartest deal I have seen in a long time and why that is exactly the problem. OpenAI has reportedly offered the United States government a 5% stake in the company, 5%. At the $852 billion valuation the company set in its March funding round, that slice is worth somewhere around $42 billion. Sam Altman has been floating the idea directly to President Trump, to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and the pitch does not stop at OpenAI. Altman has suggested that other American AI developers do the same thing, carving off 5% each into something that looks like a national sovereign wealth fund for artificial intelligence. Now, the public framing is generous. The line is that the American people helped build this technology, so the American people should share in the upside. Give the public a financial interest, and everyone wins when AI wins. It sounds civic. It sounds humble. And I want you to hold on to that feeling for a second, because I think it is almost exactly backwards. Here is how I read it. A company does not hand a $42 billion asset to a regulator out of gratitude. Companies do not work that way. Incentives do not work that way. When someone offers you something that valuable for free, the first question an engineer should ask is, what does the giver get back that is worth more than the $42 billion? And once you ask that question honestly, the whole thing snaps into focus. Think about what changes the moment the federal government owns a piece of you. Washington is not just your regulator anymore. Washington is your shareholder. Every antitrust action, every safety rule, every export restriction, every investigation now runs into a quiet little conflict of interest. If regulators crack down hard on OpenAI, they are, in a very literal accounting sense, writing down the value of an asset the Treasury holds. If a competitor threatens OpenAI's dominance, that competitor is now threatening a line item on the government's balance sheet. You have not shared the upside. You have recruited the referee onto your team. I want to be precise about the mechanism, because this is the part that actually matters. This is not a bribe. Nobody is passing an envelope. It is something more durable than a bribe, and that is what makes it clever. It is structural alignment. Once the state's financial interest is welded to your survival, you do not have to lobby for protection every year. The protection is baked into the cap table. The incentive to keep you alive and dominant becomes automatic, permanent, and completely deniable. Everyone can say they are just being good stewards of a public asset, and notice the timing, because timing tells you the mood. This offer did not come from a position of swagger. It came after more than a year of talks and a rising tide of political pressure on OpenAI in Washington. There are antitrust questions, there are copyright lawsuits, there are safety hawks in both parties. There is the small matter of a company that started as a nonprofit promising to benefit all of humanity and then restructured itself into one of the most valuable private companies on the planet. That is a lot of heat, and the single most effective way to make heat disappear is to make the people holding the fire extinguisher into your business partners. Let me Steelman the other side, because I try to be fair even when I am skeptical. There is a real argument that if a handful of companies are going to end up controlling a genuinely transformative technology, the public should own a piece of the returns rather than just absorbing the disruption. Sovereign wealth funds are not a crazy idea. Norway runs one of the best managed pools of capital on Earth off its oil. If AI really is the next general purpose technology, maybe a public stake is a more honest way to spread the gains than hoping it trickles down through the labor market. I get that argument. On paper, it is not stupid. But here is where the engineering logic breaks it. The Norwegian model works because the state owns the oil in the ground first and then licenses it out. The public asset comes before the private profit. What OpenAI is proposing is the reverse. The private company already exists, already dominates, and is now offering the state a minority stake in exchange for goodwill. That is not the public capturing value it created. That is a dominant incumbent purchasing insurance and paying for it with stock instead of cash, because stock is cheaper when you print your own valuation. And think about the second-order effects on everyone who is not OpenAI. Suppose the government takes the 5%. Now imagine you are a startup with a better model, or an open weights project giving your technology away for free, or a foreign lab trying to compete in the American market. You are no longer just fighting OpenAI. You are fighting a company whose downfall would cost the United States Treasury money. Every regulatory decision now carries a thumb on the scale. The barrier to entry stops being technical and starts being political. That is the opposite of a healthy market, and it is the opposite of the open, competitive ecosystem that actually produced the last decade of AI progress in the first place. There is also a governance problem that I do not think gets enough attention. A government that owns equity in the AI companies it regulates is a government that has quietly changed jobs. Its incentive shifts from protecting citizens from harm to protecting the value of its holdings. Those two goals overlap sometimes. They diverge exactly when it matters most, which is when a product is profitable and also dangerous. The moment the safe decision and the valuable decision point in different directions, whose interest do you think a shareholder regulator serves? I know which way I would bet, and it is not the citizen. So let me be clear about what I am not saying. I am not saying Sam Altman is a villain twirling a mustache. I actually think this is a rational move for OpenAI. If I ran a company facing that much political risk, and I could convert my biggest threat into my biggest stakeholder using equity that I get to value myself, I would at least be tempted. It is, on its own terms, brilliant. That is precisely why we should be nervous about it. The most dangerous deals are never the dumb ones. They are the smart ones that quietly rewrite the rules while everyone is admiring the generosity. Here is my verdict. OpenAI offering the government a 5% stake is not a gift to the public. It is the most elegant regulatory capture I have seen proposed in the AI era. Dressed up in the language of shared prosperity, it takes the entity that is supposed to check the company's power and turns it into a partner with a direct financial interest in that power growing. If it goes through, the winners are OpenAI and a handful of incumbents big enough to buy their own seat at the table. The losers are every smaller competitor, every open project, and ultimately every citizen who assumed the referee was still neutral. A public stake in AI might be a good idea someday, but it has to start with the public owning the asset, not with the dominant company buying the regulator. Get that order wrong, and you are not democratizing AI. You are nationalizing a monopoly and calling it a dividend. If this kind of clear-eyed breakdown is what you come here for, subscribe, because I am going to keep pulling these deals apart no matter how nicely they are wrapped. Tell me in the comments, would you take the 5% if you were the government? I think it is a trap. Convince me I am wrong.